The biggest reason why I'm picking USC to make the college football playoffs for the first time ever this year is because of experience. This is the most experienced team coming into the Big Ten this upcoming season. And usually teams have breakthrough seasons when they return the amount of starters that USC is bringing back. Anywhere between 15 to 17 starters from last year are back on this year's squad. USC, they have the quarterback, they have the offensive line. They returned all 5 starters on the offensive line for last year. They returned a lot of production on defense from last year, and they also somewhat upgraded that defensive coordinator. Sure, D'Anton Lynn, he switched up, he ditched it for Penn State. You upgraded by replacing him with a Hall of Famer and Gary Patterson taking over the defense. So USC, they finally have enough to where the idea of saying that USC can make it to the Big Ten championship, they can make it to the college football playoffs, shouldn't sound delusional. The last few years that USC has played under Lincoln Riley, they just weren't good enough to live up to what the expectation should be at a program like USC. You expect to be in the Big Ten championship race every year. You expect to be in a playoff conversation. And USC just didn't have the bodies on the line of scrimmage. They just didn't have the talent at corner and the backing of their secondary that they needed to be able to live up to those expectations. This year, what's changed? They finally do. They finally have the guys on the line of scrimmage, on the defensive line, the offensive line that you need to beat teams like Ohio State, to beat a team like Oregon, to beat a team like Indiana. They have the quarterback play. Jayden Maiava is my sleeper pick to win a Heisman Trophy this year. I think he's the most underrated Heisman Trophy contender coming into this season because you can never go wrong betting on a Lincoln Riley quarterback. We ask who wide receiver U is, who RBU is, who DBU is. Who's QBU in college football? It's Lincoln Riley. Any quarterback that Lincoln Riley has got his hands on, 9 times out of 10 has turned into not just a Heisman Trophy winner, but they've gone on to be a high draft pick and had a lot of success in the NFL. And Jayden Maiava, I think, is next in line to follow in the footsteps of the previous quarterbacks that Lincoln Riley has coached to be a Heisman contender and to end up being a first-round pick in the NFL draft. This guy had the second highest quarterback rating in college football last season, only second to Fernando Mendoza. To me, he's the best quarterback in the Big Ten right now. So, Jayden Maiava, he raises USC's floor this year. He's one of the other reasons outside of the offensive line, the defensive line improvement to why I'm drinking the USC Kool-Aid this year. Most teams that have the kind of experience that USC returns along with the productivity that they're getting out of Jayden Maiava at quarterback normally end up at the bare minimum winning 9 games. And I'm looking around the rest of the Big Ten landscape. How many quarterbacks do you believe are going to be able to match the level of play that Jayden Maiava is going to give USC and Lincoln Riley? Is Josh Hoover going to be as efficient as Jayden Maiava? Is Dante Moore going to be as good as Jayden Maiava? Because I think that Dante Moore is a tad bit overrated. I'm not saying he sucks. I'm just saying I wasn't really all that impressed with what I was seeing out of Dante Moore. And you look at Julian Sain, he's good, but I would take Jayden Maiava just because he's the better athlete and has the way better physical traits. So Jayden Maiava, it doesn't really matter who he has at wide receiver. It doesn't matter that he's losing Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon, because one thing you know about Lincoln Riley, death taxes, and he's going to have a good offense. He's going to have him a quarterback. He's going to have him some running backs, and he's going to have him some pretty good wide receivers. Gary Patterson on defense is what gives USC the ability to finally be able to say that, yeah, we deserve to be in the CFP conversation. because he just rose the ceiling of USC's defense. USC's defense the past 2 years has quietly improved, and the improvement that they've made on this side of the ball has been ignored out of ignorance because people still want to keep pushing this stigma that USC is some soft-ass team from the West Coast, and they got a bunch of powder puffs on the line of scrimmage that just are never going to be able to handle the style of play that comes with playing in the Big Ten. It's just wrong. USC, before they had D'Anton Lynn, had one of the worst defenses in college football. And D'Anton Lynn's first season, they were a top 70 unit. And his second season, they improved to being a top 50 unit. So now with Gary Patterson taking over, it's not crazy to expect for USC defensively to possibly be a top 40 unit or better. And this isn't a defense that needs to be Oklahoma levels of dominance in order for this to be a team that makes it to the Big Ten championship or makes it to the CFP. If you're telling me that USC has a top 40 defense or better, I guarantee you that's going to be good enough to get to the CFP. The gap between USC and Ohio State, USC and Oregon, USC and Indiana, USC and Penn State isn't big. There isn't a gap at all. If we're being honest, USC just had the number one recruiting class in college football. One of their best recruiting classes in the history of their program. They're recruiting well. They're developing well. Now, you're just waiting for the results on the field to show. And this is the year that you finally see those results. Lincoln Riley has been letting his nuts hang this offseason. I've never heard Lincoln Riley speak with more conviction and more confidence than what he has this offseason when it comes to his expectations for where he expects this program to be at the end of this year. He just said a few months ago that USC's national championship window is wide open. Normally, coaches don't talk that kind of way if they truly didn't have 100% conviction in their squad's ability to live up to the big check that Lincoln Riley wrote. Most times you have coaches preaching patience, trying to lower the expectations, not Lincoln Riley. And USC's schedule also perfectly sets them up to have a big breakthrough this season. Their keyhole games this year, some of the best teams they play on their schedule, Washington, Ohio State, Oregon, they play them in the Coliseum. That matters because USC played their best football when they were at home last year. Now, they do have a few tough road games, but they definitely are winnable. I can see USC beating Penn State. And I could see them pulling off an upset against Indiana. They got the quarterback play. They got the talent. They got the bodies on the line of scrimmage that everybody thought that Lincoln Riley would never be able to get. So now it's just all about USC putting it all together and handling business. And if USC doesn't make it to the playoffs this year, they'll never make it to the playoffs under Lincoln Riley. And it's time to cut bait and go in a different direction because you can only sell vision for so long without results until eventually you need to start seeing some good returns on investment. And this has to be the year that Lincoln Riley delivers on the investment into last year's recruiting class, into bringing back all 5 starters on the offensive line, being able to upgrade at defensive coordinator from D'Anton Lynn to Gary Patterson. USC is going to be one of the best teams in the Big Ten this year. Sure, it sounds insane to say that. It sounds insane to even hear that because it seems like we've been uttering this noise about USC for over a decade, but USC hasn't recruited, nor have they developed the way that they are now over the last decade and some change. I truly believe that if there ever was a year to buy USC stock, to feel confidence that Lincoln Riley's finally going to deliver a CFP berth to Trojans Nation, I think 2026 is finally the year that it happens. If you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications. If you live, eat, breathe, sleep and die football. We're talking not just college football, NFL, all things football 24/7, 365 days throughout the year. Shout out to my guy, Junkyard Dog 89. He says, Riley has been making empty promises and predictions forever. Hey, man, I don't think the promises and predictions he's been making this offseason are empty. I truly believe that USC has the talent. They got the defensive coordinator. They got the experience coming back. They got the quarterback to finally make a run. And if they don't do it this year, hey, I guess it was another year. Lincoln Riley fooled me, fooled a lot of USC fans, and a lot of backdroppers aren't going to be happy with him if USC doesn't at least put themselves to where they're on the outside looking in of making it to the playoffs.